Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Insurance Explained with Andrew Perlin. We have been on this theme of talking about what's worse than a market crash. Losing 20 to 30% of your portfolio, and that's awful, and nobody wants to have to go through that. But the bottom line here is that there's a risk that can wipe everything out instantly. Not over time, not gradually, I mean instantly. And almost nobody wants to talk about it. And if this happens to you and you don't come home from work today, your income's not just stopping for a day, a week, a month, or whatever. It's stopping forever. And how does that affect your family who is depending upon that income? So the question you have to ask yourself is, if I don't come home from work today, where does that leave the people who are dependent on my income to survive? Now, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but this is real because when people think about risk, they think about markets. They think about like what happens if something breaks. They think about all the other things that go along with it. But the biggest risk to most families is the permanent loss of income that goes with the loss of life. Let me tell you a story. Not too long ago, I sat down with a couple and they were doing well. I mean, good income. They had a nice home, kids, everything looked solid on the surface. Then we started talking about life insurance. And like a lot of people, they said, yeah, we have insurance through work and that's great. And as I was starting to dig down a little bit with that, I wanted to make sure that they were properly insured. So I asked them one simple question. If something happened to you tomorrow, how long would everything keep going in your household? So if you're married, for example, and you need both incomes to make things work, and you lost one income for an extended period of time, and we're talking death, so we're talking the rest of your life, how would that affect the people that are surviving? How would that affect your family in this example? Because you still got to pay the bills. You got the mortgage, college, retirement, like everything keeps going. So how long would it last? Like how long can you sustain that? Well, when I was talking to this couple, like everything went silent. They didn't have an answer because the reality is most people just don't know. Or worse, they assume they're covered. They assume they've got it through work, so therefore everything's going to be okay. And then they don't. Work insurance is great. I'm glad people have it, but it's not always the answer. It can help, but usually doesn't solve everything. So here's the issue. Most employers' life insurance is about 1 or 2 times your annual salary. 3 times maybe if you're lucky, if you work for a really good employer. Now that's not protection. That's temporary cushion. 2 times your salary basically means 2 years. 3 times 3 years, right? So that's great for the first 2 or 3 years. But what happens beyond that? Unless you were planning on retiring in the next 2 or 3 years, you have a delta that you have to try to figure out. How am I going to replace that income? So let's say somebody makes $150,000 a year. A 2 times salary gives them 300 grand. Great. That sounds like a lot of money until you realize that's only 2 years of income. Well, what happens in year three? The bills don't stop. The mortgage doesn't stop. Life keeps moving, but the income is gone. And in this case, it's gone permanently. Someone dies. Unfortunately, they're gone forever. And so is their income. This isn't just about replacing income for a year or two. This is about replacing income for the rest of your life. It's about everything that the income was supposed to do: pay off debt, fund retirement, cover college, support a spouse, maintain a lifestyle. And when that disappears, the entire plan changes. And not gradually, like it happens overnight, right? Someone passes away. Next thing you know, you're out this money. That's why I say this could be worse than a market crash because you can recover from a market crash. We have talked about this before. You cannot recover from permanent income loss. If there is not enough protection in place, the people you care about are the ones left dealing with this gap. I can go countless stories of families that were devastated and destroyed because the primary breadwinner didn't have enough life insurance. And now the family that depended on that income, they don't have that income anymore. And now they have to go and do things that they didn't normally think they had to do, like drop out of school and get a job, help support the household, things like that. Unfortunately, it happens all the time. Now, if you have life insurance, good. But if your income has changed, your life has changed, your coverage should change too. So it definitely needs to be reviewed. Life insurance is something that we're trying to protect against the loss of income between the moment that you pass away and the moment that you are no longer need the income. That could be a big chunk of money. Even somebody in their 50s, if you're making 150, 200,000, $300,000 a year, and you don't plan on retiring for another 10 or 15 years, that's a couple of $1 million worth of insurance that you would need to replace the income because you're no longer there. If your life has changed, your coverage should too. So let's review it. Okay. When we talk about life insurance, so I don't want to make this about like, do you love people? This is, if you don't buy more insurance, that means you don't really love your family. That's not it at all. And I don't want you to think of it that way. And if anyone tries to sell you insurance based on the emotional side of it, I really think they're not doing you a service at all. The way I want you to view life insurance is very matter of fact. I bring X dollars into the household from this point until the day that I retire. If I don't come home from work today, my household still needs X dollars. So that's how much life insurance that you should have. Now we can look at how do we use insurance while we're still alive? And there's a lot of great options and opportunities to use life insurance as part of your financial plan, but purely from an income replacement perspective. If you don't come home from work today and you have a household or a family or something that is dependent upon you going to work and bringing in income, you have a need for life insurance. If you own a business and you are the primary reason why that business is up and running, you bring all the revenue into the business, you don't make it to work the next day. Your business is going to stop because you are the main person that is keeping this thing going. That's the way I want you to think about life insurance. The point of this conversation is that if you don't have enough life insurance or don't have any life insurance, or more to the point, if you are just relying on your employer's life insurance, there could be a really big delta in the event something happens. And this can be way worse than a market crash. Because, like I've always said, yes, you may lose money. You probably will lose money in a market crash or market turn or whatever. But the cool thing about the market is that it's so resilient that it usually bounces back and then some. So if you can weather the storm, you'll get back to where you were and beyond that. But if someone that you love, that you're dependent upon, their income passes away, that income's not coming back. Like it just isn't. And now whoever's left has to deal with it. So that's why not having enough life insurance could be worse than a market crash. Not to be doom and gloom about this, but if you don't have any life insurance or if all you have is employer sponsored life insurance, I strongly urge you to talk to a professional and try to figure out what your options are, how much you can qualify for, and put something in place, even if it's a term policy on the short term, just to make sure that you cover the gap. The best part about life insurance is that there's ways to use it while you're still alive. So if that's something that's interesting to you, work with your insurance professional to figure that out. They should work hand in hand with your financial plan, and it could create a lot of value and a lot of assets for you. All right. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Market crashes are real. It happens all the time, but you can survive a market crash. If you lose your income permanently, how does your family respond? That's the point of this podcast today. So again, thanks for being here. Please like and share at the bottom. I'm happy to review anyone's life insurance or have any conversation with anybody. I'm not trying to sell you something. I am just trying to inform you. All right. Have a great day, everybody. And I appreciate you being here. Take care. Bye.